right, here we are.
Hello. Hello, everyone. How you guys doing today?
Look at that familiar face.
We have a special guest today. We have Mark Lack from Shorten the Gap, and we also have Gus Van Dender, who is the president of EQK. Thank you to everyone who is joining us today. As most of you may know, my name is Catherine, and I am the investment manager, more on the relations side. So we have a lot of curious minds on the call today because I've been pumping up this webinar. So I'm hoping lots of those people are here to ask you guys some tough questions. And we kind of want to just jump in very, very quickly. So I'm going to give a quick snapshot of what we're offering right now. So EQK is offering a promissory note. We are providing 16% interest to anyone that is investing with us from 50,000, which is the minimum, to up to 250,000 on a 2-year note. On a 3-year note, we are offering 18% for the same value, 50,000 to 250,000. And then if you're above 250,000, you receive 18% on 2-year note and 20% on a 3-year note. So big numbers. So the burning question that everyone has is, how on earth are you guys able to provide those big numbers? So if we can get started a little bit, I kind of would like Gus to give us a little bit of a background of what is EQK. So
Yeah, I
we can
think
start
there's a couple more burning questions, Catherine, that I
there.
always, how many hats does Gus have? I get that. I get asked that all the time. And does he actually have hair? The answer is yes.
Yeah.
So those are burning
Awesome.
questions that I wanted to get out of the way first.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, what is EQK? EQK is a portion of toolbox, and I want to preface that with with everything else we say, because there's more to EQK than what we're going to be talking about today. But just for the sake of ease and understanding of what's happening, we decided to carve off a separate holding company to go purchase and acquire and consolidate businesses in the same industry, the same vertical. And that vertical we like to refer to as the info space, right? Online education, online coaching. It's an industry that a lot of people are not very familiar with
Mhm.
as a student or as a member of a program, but also for our benefit in the investment space, in the venture capital and private equity space. And of course, that's a benefit for us because the more players there are in a specific vertical, the more people know that good deals are to be made, the more competitive it's going to be, right? And I feel that we are the first to figure out that that is a good industry to invest in, and also know that there's massive opportunities. And that only comes from the fact that myself and the people I've surrounded myself with, like Mark here on the call, know that industry so well, right? And it's very interesting. Sometimes we talk about celebrities in our industry, and some people feel like celebrities, but nobody really knows them, right? but but
Yeah.
inside of the container of online education, they are celebrities. Like they have millions of followers and clients and people that they've worked with. Then you walk down the street, you ask who's Tony Robbins. Not everybody knows him, right? And I'm like, what? You don't know Tony Robbins, like the biggest guy in the industry? Like he's
Yeah.
like the yeah, yeah, the biggest name you could think of, and but they still don't know him, right? Because it's just not. And again, that's a good thing in my opinion, because we're first in that space, doing a big roll up and being able to execute on that vision that we have to create something larger that benefits not just the companies, the employees that work in those companies, but also the people receiving the service, right?
Yeah, and just for a couple of the people that are on the call, some people this is a new space to get into. Can
Mhm.
you can you just give a brief description of what a roll up is and how this works with EQK?
Yeah, roll up is a term that we use in private equity when you start buying the same types of businesses, right? Where you have 100 companies, they all do the same thing, and you roll them up into one. So
Right,
you get the economy of scale that benefits that roll up. There's synergies. There's a lot of benefits of taking 10 companies with the same type of product and then just making it into one, right? That makes total sense. You don't have to think very hard to see how that could benefit that company that is the new company that is being created.
so in a roll up, you would share expenses, you share
Of course,
employees, you
of
share
course.
marketing strategies, you
Yeah,
share all of that kind of stuff gets distributed essentially across all of the companies.
yeah,
Way.
correct. Yeah,
Right.
and then
Okay.
there's a lot more, obviously, when you dive deeper, especially in this space specifically. And Mark can probably speak to that even better. Um, there's a lot of collaborations going on already, right?
Right.
When somebody promotes my product, then they are going to promote, I'm going to promote theirs, they promote mine. We split the revenue, and I've explained this a couple of times already.
Yeah.
Instead of splitting the revenue, if we own both companies, we keep all the revenue. There's no
Right.
more revenue splitting going on, right? If I promote Mark, I take 40% of the revenue, he keeps 60, he promotes me, it's the same 40-60 split.
Right.
Now that we're one, it's 100% of everything, right? So that
Right.
immediately increases the profitability of those two companies joining into one company.
Okay, so I feel like that's a perfect segue right into how does a company end up being in EQK? Like, what are the like? Why would you choose these companies? What happens with them? So that's why we have Mark on the call today because we want to dive into his thought process. So, Shorten the Gap is part of the EQK portfolio. So, Mark, would you be willing to give us a little bit of a snapshot of what Shorten the Gap is?
Yeah, sorry, my voice sounds a little different because I'm getting over a cold right now. So I'm
It's
No
okay.
worries.
It's still sexy, man. Don't worry.
yeah,
Well,
so
actually, I'm more interested in if I may, Catherine, I
Yeah,
want to rephrase the question a little bit.
sure.
I'd like to almost hear the history of Mark Lack and what did you
First. Yeah.
do to become that personality inside of the
mm,
space, and what did you do to build Shorten the Gap to what it was when we started talking?
yeah, so when I was in school, I didn't do well with class. I didn't resonate with what I was learning. And so I went on the internet and I was like, how do I make money? Because that's the whole point of going to school is to get a job, to make money, to take care of your family, to achieve your goals and stuff in life. So I was like, well, I can do that without school. I don't need to know why X times square root of whatever. Like none of that matters. That's going to be pointless information. So I'm going
Mhm.
to go on the internet and I'm going to start searching how do I make money? And I found Tony Robbins and Brian Tracy and John Asseroff and Think and Grow Rich and all these other books behind me. And I realized self-education was going to be my path for me personally to achieving the life that I wanted. And I found a whole bunch of great mentors, and many of them were making money on the internet. And I thought, wow, if this thing is real and you can really make money on the internet, this is what I'm going to commit to doing. And on that journey, I realized Tony helped me with personal development, right? You have to become the best version of yourself. Self mastery, it's a never ending journey. Always improve yourself in all different ways mentally, physically, spiritually, emotionally, financially. But also, how do you make money? Sales and marketing. So I got really into sales and I got really good at selling. But then I realized, like, right now, if I'm sick, you can't sell. You're not going to be as effective when you're selling. In 2018, I actually got really sick and I got sepsis and
Mm,
I almost died. And I was in the hospital for almost 2 months. And that is where selling is irrelevant. I couldn't sell back then.
yeah.
So what I realized on my journey was you have to get good at marketing. And marketing helps you generate the leads and can convert those leads through digital selling, like pre-recorded webinars where I'm able to actually give the same presentation that I would do live, to both educate people, inspire them, and give them the confidence that they can succeed online, and that we can provide them the blueprint to be able to do that through their personal brand and online marketing and digital strategy that we teach. And so I figured out how to basically clone myself. So I got really good at selling, but for the reasons stated, selling is only as effective as you are able to get up in the morning and go and make a phone call or have a meeting. Marketing is basically being able to digitize yourself in print and digital media. And so I got really good at selling and marketing. And when you're really good at selling and marketing, you can make money doing anything. I just chose to do education because education helped change my life, because I was not on the best path. Because if you don't do well in school, everybody's like, you're not going anywhere in life. You're a failure, especially if you don't have something else going on to prove them wrong. And so the thing that I had going on to prove everyone wrong was my self-education. I was like, I'm going to prove everybody wrong, that I'm not stupid. I just don't care about college and high school. And that's why my grades suffer. And that's why I'm stupid in the formal education system. So I'm going to go and self-educate myself, and I'm going to get super wealthy, and I'm going to be the best version of myself over here, doing this unconventional thing, like learning on my own without paying a bunch of, well, I did go to college and pay a bunch of money, and it was a big waste of time and money. But, so I learned how to make money on the internet. And for me, I was like, well, I could go and sell anything. And honestly, I probably could have made a lot more money selling other things than education, because education's hard, especially getting people to pay me, who's a nobody, who's not qualified, who doesn't have certifications and credentials and college educations, to pay me to teach them. And so it was a tough choice and a tough journey, but education changed my life. People like Tony Robbins, who Gus and I are going to go hang out with next week in Florida, because we're one of his top partners who supports him. And yeah, it's amazing. And that's what's so cool is like being in this industry, you know, we're the top partners for people like Tony Robbins, and we get to go hang out with him, which he charges $1 million a day. And we're going to go hang out with him for free. And so I wanted to get an education because it changed my life. And I'm really passionate about teaching people things. Like, I'm obsessed with helping people learn how to make money on the internet. And I'm obsessed with Bitcoin. And so like, you can't shut me up about those two things. Because when I get obsessed about something, I just want to learn all about it, and I want to share it with the world and teach people like, this is going to change your life like it changed mine. And so that's kind of how the journey started. I started teaching people personal development like Tony Robbins, only to quickly realize most people don't want to improve themselves. So it's hard to teach somebody or sell somebody on, hey, give me money and I'll teach you how to be a better version of you. They're like, meh. So after a couple of years of doing that, I shifted and I pivoted, and I said, I'm going to teach people how to do what I'm really good at, which is sales and marketing. And so I started teaching sales and marketing, only to quickly discover that a lot of people already teach sales and marketing. So how am I going to stand out? And back in 2013, 14, 15, almost 10 years ago, the whole personal branding, being a social media influencer was very like pish posh. Like, it almost meant like you had no job and you were basically like a nobody. Like, I'm an influencer. That meant nothing 10 years ago. Now you could be Kim Kardashian influencer. You could be a billionaire.
Yeah.
And so now building a personal brand is almost non-negotiable. We all have a personal brand, whether you like it or not. And if I look you up and your personal brand doesn't reflect your education, your qualifications, I'm not able to see stuff about you personally and professionally that conveys to me you're a credible, trustworthy, value-based individual, then I'm probably not going to give you the job. I'm probably not going to partner with you. I'm probably not going to work with you. I'm probably not going to take the phone call. I'm probably not going to reply to your cold email. Because when you look me up, over the last 10 years, I've done a really good job building my personal brand, and that's your online reputation. I can almost convey my values, my trustworthiness, my reputation, my success, my family, my passions. I can convey all of those things that you and I would have to have like a 2-hour lunch to really get to know each other. I can, or even like a 6-month relationship. I can convey all of that to you on social media. You can go and stalk me, and you can feel like you know me, like me, and trust me, and almost like you even know my friends, my business partners, and my family. But you don't at all. You just see what I choose to give you on social media. So I'm able to cultivate a perception of reality that I want you to have of me. And that is able to scale trust and rapport, which is the first step in the selling and the marketing process, is getting people to believe that you have their best interest in mind, and that your product and service can help them, and that you're a trustworthy business or individual. And you can actually scale that and automate that. And so when I meet a lot of people, they go, oh my God, like, you know, they talk to me about things in my life, and I'm kind of like, oh, that's kind of creepy. But I'm like, wait a minute. No, I posted that, and that's how you know about it. People always feel like they know me. So personal branding has become this huge trend, and Shorten the Gap got on that trend really early. I realized sales and marketing was something that everybody needs. And it's almost like when I give my dog medicine, he doesn't want the medicine. He wants me to wrap the medicine with bacon. And so people don't really want their personal brand, but they want to make more money. They want to help more people and impact people. And that's what sales and marketing can help you do. So we took personal branding and we wrapped it with sales and marketing. So personal branding is like the medicine. Everybody needs a personal brand, but they don't always want to take it. They don't want to do the work. So I wrapped it with sales and marketing. So the message sounded like personal branding and delivered the value of building your personal brand, but we taught people sales and marketing fundamentals. So they were able to go out and they're able to make money and they're able to grow their impact in the world with their products and services or by being an affiliate. And so it's kind of like, if you literally look at the slogan underneath the logo, it says sales, marketing, and personal branding. It literally says that underneath the logo because those are the things that we do. And we put the bridge there and Shorten the Gap's kind of the name because you have a gap between you and your goals, or else you would have already achieved them. And so there's a gap between where you want to be and where you are. And so we help people shorten that gap through sales, marketing, and personal branding. And that was kind of the evolution. And then we use automated webinars, digital courses, and things that allow maximum leverage in the business so that I was able to spend time with my family and do things that if I got sick, because I did. So a lot of my filter in life became, how can I still impact people and serve people and make money and have the business continue if I'm sick? And so what's cool is I got very leverage based thinking mentalities where how do I make sure that the fulfillment happens without me, the sales happens without me, the marketing happens without me. And so I started asking myself all these questions where if I'm not able to be in the business, how does it still run without me? And I think a lot of business owners could learn to do that because most business owners, the reason that their business isn't growing amongst potentially a huge list is because they are stuck doing so many things that they think nobody can do it better than me, or I can't trust anybody to do it other than me. And luckily, right, praise the Lord, I got very sick and survived. But through that experience, I learned how to let go and how to trust other people and systems and automations to be able to do the thing. Even if it wasn't as good as me doing it, it's able to do it without me. And that's almost just as important. So I can go and use my time and energy and put it into other things. So that's kind of the evolution of where we got. And I'm grateful that I met Gus and Toolbox, invested in the company myself. So for people wondering about cash, right? Like not only did they buy my business, but years before they bought my business, I invested my money and my dad, who found Toolbox before me. My dad and I both put a ton of our money into Toolbox because we love the vision and the mission. And then it wasn't until years later, by being a LP on the newsletter, the quarterly newsletters, that I actually saw something that said, "Hey, we're looking for, low capex, profitable EBITDA businesses that are transferable, digital, scalable." And I was like, wait a minute, I know people in the industry. And the journey started to unfold by me recommending people in the industry that they could buy. And then all of a sudden my business got acquired. And now I'm just full force Toolbox and EQK. And I'm helping them on all the things that are going to help the people who are investing, people who are on this call. If I can help raise more capital and I can help acquire better deals, then we can drive this whole thing up so that, paying people 16, 18, 20% is a no-brainer for us because we're getting a larger return on the capital than that. So we're able to pay out the LPs and people who are investing. But the journey is really exciting. I think this industry is ripe for disruption. Like Gus was saying, there's nobody doing this really that we're aware of. And we know, I don't want to say we know everybody because that's not the correct way to state it, but we know a lot of people. And in people like Dean Graziosi and Tony Robbins, and like, I think everybody else falls under that. Grant Cardone is probably the only person doing something similar with 10X Ventures. But they're kind of doing more like HVAC and real estate. Service-based things. So even then, they're doing something different than us. We're focusing on info and education, and they love what we're doing. Brandon Dawson and Grant and Jared, all those guys we're friends with, they love what we're doing in the info space because that's how Grant got started, in the info space. And so Grant actually built his brand, his personal brand, around info and selling education to begin with. And it wasn't only until later in his career, literally in his 60s, that he pivoted and started to get into real estate. And so education changed Grant's life and personal branding changed his life. And so that's what we're going all in on, is basically helping roll up all these different education companies, because what we realized in the marketplace is a lot of people promote each other. And like Gus was referencing earlier, they're affiliates for one another. So I'll promote you, you promote me. Maybe I'll do a launch once a year and get a bunch of affiliates to promote me, or I'll do promotions year round. And there's only 3 ways you can get clients or customers. You can buy them with paid advertising, Facebook ads, Google ads, et cetera. You can use affiliates. You can borrow traffic from joint venture partners, et cetera. Or you can create it organically, building a social media podcast, et cetera. So people can discover you organically on social media, like SEO. So there's only 3 ways to get it. And we find that paid advertising has certain levels of risk. it's dangerous for us to go and acquire a company, potentially dangerous, when we know that by buying them, we have to continue spending $1 million a month on Facebook ads. That kind of sucks. We bought you and now we have to spend $1 million a month on Facebook ads because that's what your model was. And then organic, it's kind of dangerous. We've seen a lot of people in this cancel culture where their social media organic could just get taken away, blacklisted, delisted, shut down. You could just lose your YouTube channel, your Facebook account, because the algorithm gods just said, goodbye. You said something you shouldn't have, or just randomly you got flagged. So organic and paid both have certain levels of risk. And so we really love the affiliate space because although there's the risk of relying on another person to promote you, there's no risk if we bought that person. And so if we bought the person who's supposed to promote you, there's now no risk, because the only risk in affiliate marketing is that the person backs out of promoting you because contractually they don't really have to. You can't force somebody to promote you. It's kind of like an agreement. I'll promote you and then usually you'll promote me. And it's kind of this trust-based community. And so the idea with EQK is, what if, yes, we rely on some organic and paid because those are very important diversifications of generating leads and sales. But what if we went out and we found all the perfect affiliates that we didn't need to rely on because we bought all of them and we rolled them all up into one thing, and each one of them provided potentially the next best step for the client? Meaning, after you bought my personal branding program, you might be interested in artificial intelligence. You might be interested in sales in a greater sense, marketing in a greater sense, Facebook ads, or how to be a speaker, how to build a podcast. You might be interested in all these different things, personal development. There's so many things that people on the journey, and I've been doing this for over 10 years. I know I've promoted all the things I just stated. And sometimes I'm like, wow, we just did $100,000 for so-and-so's personal development program, John Asseroff, or we just promoted Marisa Murgatroyd's How to Launch Your Course program because a big percentage of our people want to launch a course. And so what if we just go and we buy all those different things? So it's almost like, I know that, let's say Catherine loves sushi and Gus loves Thai food. You don't eat that every day. And so just like you might buy my personal branding program, that might be what you focus on for the next 6 months. But if you're going to truly be in business, you're probably going to buy another program and another program, and then how to build you might pay somebody to build your website. You might pay somebody to write you a funnel. You might be like, AI's trending, and go buy all the best AI courses. And so the idea is, what if we could provide all the things that you would need on the journey? And we do that through acquiring people. And then we know that it comes with your customers, and your customers who already bought your program might want the other 27 programs we have in EQK. And those customers might want your program. And so we're creating this ecosystem that allows the businesses to succeed and the customers to succeed, because we're creating that next logical step in your journey. And we have all the programs and we have the affiliates. So we're not relying upon Facebook ads and spending money to acquire customers, although that's a great diversification of generating leads. And then organic, we're not relying upon somebody's organic social media, which is tough to do after you acquire somebody, to be like, hey, I need you to keep posting for me because I bought you. And so we kind of let people continue with their organic strategy. But the affiliate model is so beautiful because, like Gus was saying, we get to basically just move money around on the balance sheets because you promote me, I promote you, but really I own both companies. So I don't really care what happens. It's almost like if you've seen Procter and Gamble's org chart, they own Lay's potato chips, Doritos chips, Pringles chips. They don't care which chips you buy because they own all the chips. And they don't care which drink you buy because they own all the drink beverages. And we don't care which education program you buy on your journey because we own all the best education programs. And so that's kind of the vision. So for the investors on the call, who are the potential investors who are interested, that's kind of painting the picture for you of how we think this vision over the next 3 to 5 years is going to unfold. Is we will be a monopoly, is not the right word because that kind of comes off in a negative sense, but I want to invest in a monopoly. If I was an investor, I would want to invest in a monopoly because I know that it's going to succeed. And so although that's not the correct word, I think it paints the picture of what I'm saying is, like, we're going to get so big eventually, and we're going to have so many great customers and distribution and emails and text messages that we've built our own success ecosystem where it almost becomes impossible to fail. And I don't want to say we're there yet, but I know that's the direction we're heading, and I'm 100% committed in making it happen, and grateful to be one of the first acquisitions in the journey of supporting it. And again, I know almost everybody in the industry, and all of them are interested in what we're doing, either as an acquisition target, a capital contributor, like the people on this call who want to contribute capital to get a great return, or as a partner. They want to support and be partners with us. And so hopefully that paints a good picture for people, and I'm happy to answer any other questions. I went for quite a while, so.
fantastic picture. So one of the common questions that I always get is, why are these guys selling their companies if they're doing so well?
It's a
So
great question. Yeah.
yeah, so why, can you tell us your story? What was your why?
Yeah. So again, I said something earlier. I'll loop back to. I said I'm obsessed with online education and Bitcoin. And Bitcoin, if you study it, I won't get on my soapbox, but it goes in cycles. And right now, the cycle's coming up where historically, not financial advice. Don't listen to me right now. But historically, this is the cycle where Bitcoin's going to go and rip up. And there's going to be volatility, I understand, but when you zoom out, Bitcoin only goes up in the long term if you hold it for over 5 years. And so I've been accumulating since 2017. And then obviously from the acquisition, I accumulated a lot more. And so for me, it was a combination of a few things. I want to get into education and be part of a bigger picture than just myself.
Yeah.
And so selling my company allowed me to do that. And then it allowed me to check a few boxes. It allowed me to be part of something bigger than myself, EQK, much bigger than just Shorten the Gap. Shorten the Gap's just one leg under the table, so to
Yep.
speak. It's one pillar of the building. And so now I'm a part of something much bigger, as I just stated in my rant. And then it also allowed me to create a liquidity event where I was able to invest into more Bitcoin accumulation, which I believe is going to go up tremendously. I mean, it's already gone up 300% since I bought it from the exit. Um, and I believe it's going to go up a lot more. So that's just me. So those are some things that check the boxes for me. And again, I'm a super long-term holder, and that's just my personal allocation, not financial advice at all. But yeah, I mean, I think a lot of the other people we talk to have different visions. Like one of our other targets that we're looking at right now, he has like the book, The Infinite Game Theory, and like he wants to go and do all these big, impactful things. And he knows that like he's been running his company for similar to me, 10 years. 10 years is kind of that like whatever new chapter in a lot of people's lives. I've been doing it for 10 years. It kind of checks the box of like, wow, it's been a full decade and I did it. I'm successful. And so a lot of people are ready for like, what's the next thing? Do I want to do this for the next 10 years? And a lot of people are just like, maybe I'll sell half my company or maybe I'll stick around for a little bit. And so a lot of people are looking for like that transition. But everybody has their own story. I kind of shared what mine was. Also, um, my mom got sick and passed around the same time that my mom had been sick for 3 years. And so then she passed right around the exact time that I had exited the company. And so having me been sick and then see my mom get sick and then pass after 3 years of fighting cancer, at that same time I had a child. So I have a 2-year-old daughter. And so I just had a lot of crazy things happen in my life. Like I almost died. Then my mom got sick of cancer for 3 years and progressively got worse until she passed. And then we had a daughter and now she's 2 and 4 months. And so like I had some crazy things like having your first child and then having your mom be sick and pass. Like those are radical, like tree shakers that like just
Yep.
shift your life.
Absolutely.
Um, and so, yeah, so for me, I just was like, I really want to be able to drop in and be with family. And so the other cool thing about being part of EQK is like, I'm no longer an operator of Shorten the Gap, but I support it tremendously as I'm on this call now doing. I support it with my capital. I support it with my network. I support it with my brand. I support it in every single way that I possibly could support it. Literally, there's not a single way that I couldn't additionally be putting something in to support it. I'm here with my time right now. Like I'm here to answer everybody's questions. Like in any way that I can support, I'm able to, but I don't have to be the day-to-day operator of my company. And that gives me like this big, like, wow, I can just be with like my daughter and I could be with my family and like we just went to Napa because my mom's birthday was April 1st. And obviously she's not with us. And so we just went to Napa to like celebrate her and honor her because she loved Napa and the wineries.
Yeah.
And so I was able to do that, right? Instead of being like, oh, it's Monday, I'm supposed to be working and operating my business. I didn't have that pressure. Instead, I was able to be like, I'm going to be with my family. And I'm sick, but I have a commitment to being on this call with you guys to answer your question. So again, it's created a lot of great space in my life to
Yeah.
focus on what I believe matters, which is like health and family, especially from those big tree shaker moments that have happened in my life. And so, yeah, so those were my personal reasons, but a lot of the other people who we've either already acquired or are targeting,
Yeah.
everybody has their own journey. Everybody has their own reasons. But
Mm.
what we're finding to be really unique is I would say 90% is an accurate number. 90% of the people we talk to are all interested. Doesn't mean they're committed and want to, but they're all interested in the conversation. So over 90% of people that we get on a call with, many of which already know us, we know them. We're not just going after strangers who have good balance sheets. We're going after people who we already know have a good reputation and that we trust and that we want to work with. And 90% of them are all interested in the conversation. And so people who are on this call, your capital helps us go out and acquire those really good business models who have great numbers, great financials. And when we plug them into our ecosystem, it just helps feed the mission and the vision of what we're looking to create. And I kind of highlighted that earlier.
Yeah, if I may
Yeah.
add something to that, more in general, right? Because Mark answered the question from his personal perspective, which is great, because it's a good, real example of that. But I think there's three reasons why people are interested, and it's the same whether you're talking about acquisitions in EQK or just in general. Why do people exit their business, right?
Mhm.
It's actually, it's cash, it's time, and it's vision, right?
Right.
Those are
And
typically the three things.
I see,
You want to finally get some cash off the table because you've been working on this company for 10 years. And I don't know who on the call owns a business here, but typically you're the last one to get paid, right? You, as an entrepreneur, you're always chasing that bigger thing. You're always reinvesting your funds into your company. That is your money, of course, but when you have an exit, when you sell your company, all of a sudden you get this chunk of cash wired into your account. And you're like, oh my God, this is finally my payout. And
And I
it
did it.
doesn't matter if you're making $1 million in profit every year. You get that injection of $5 million all of a sudden. That is worth so much more than the $1 million in profit that
it's
you
it's it's also long-term capital gains versus ordinary income, because if
exactly.
you're making $1 million and pulling that out of your company as a S
Yep.
corp and it's flowing to you as the owner, distributions,
Correct.
you're getting taxed at the highest bracket. And if you live
Mhm.
in, and obviously, of course, we can get into tax and all the ways you could mitigate it and whatnot,
Mhm.
but nonetheless, it's taxed at the highest level. But
Yep.
when you get the liquidity event, assuming you owned your company for over 12 months, and we're not acquiring companies that haven't owned their company for a
Yep.
historical period of usually at least 3 years.
Yep.
They're getting a long-term capital gains distribution. So anywhere between 20 and 35% versus 40 and 55%, right? So it's like,
Yep. Correct.
so that's
Yep.
another thing, is they're getting usually 2 to 4 years of cash at a lower tax. And
Mhm.
so for me, I got basically 3 years of cash and I put it on Bitcoin, and Bitcoin went up 3x. So I made 9 years of cash, and I did it in the last 7.5 to 8 months. And so to answer Carla's question, why are companies selling if they're doing so well? I was doing great. I literally exited my company at the peak year we've ever had. I literally, of 10 years, I sold at the very highest point, Carla. So like I'm doing well. So my company looked like, why not just keep running it if it's doing better and better and better?
Yep.
Because I made 9 years of cash in 7.5 months doing nothing. And so hopefully that answers your question, Carla. Everybody's going to have their own reasons,
Yep.
but the tax
Yeah. So
exit, so you're going to get
yeah.
2 to 4 years of cash all at once at a lower tax bracket. I mean, that's like 3 to 5 years of cash, and you're getting it in a single day. And then if, like me, you're, a diversified, intelligent investor, which I'm sure many of you are, that's why you're on here. You're looking to diversify your cash and deploy it in ways that can give you a great return, because leaving it in the bank right now with quantitative easing and the crazy world we live in, where the government just printed another $1.6 trillion this year, the dollar's going down. And depending on which metrics you look at, it's going down anywhere between 10 to 14% a year in purchasing power. So by leaving your money in a money market fund at 5.5%, you're still losing 10 to 14% minus the delta. And so you're losing money no matter what. It's just how slow do you want to lose your money? And when you put it into EQK, 16 to 20%, you overcome the hurdle rate. And so you're, even if the inflation rate's 10 to 14%, we're giving you 16 to 20. It's able to help you achieve the hurdle rate that you're probably stuck in right now, which is why you're on here, because there's not very many places you can get 16 to 20% on your capital.
Yep.
Mhm.
Yeah. Yeah. And the other two reasons was time, right? Where you've been slaving away building your company for so long. And
Mm-hmm.
like you said, when you sell your company, again, it doesn't matter how much profit you were making, all of a sudden you have all this time for yourself. And
Yeah,
Maybe
burnout's a big one. The reason they're so successful, right? Because Carla
exactly.
said clarity on why companies are selling if they're doing so well. Burnout. I mean, Nvidia is doing the best it's ever done compared to pretty much every company on the S&P 500. And the CEO and founder of Nvidia says, if I could have gone back in time, I never would have done this. And so, to answer Carla's question, one of the most successful companies in the entire planet, the CEO and founder said, I never would have ever started this company if I knew it was going to get this big,
Yeah.
because it took away from his family and his children and his time and his identity. And so,
Mhm.
there's another reason. So again, I think there's probably more things we could list, but hopefully that answers not only Carla's question around
Yep.
why are companies selling if they're doing well, but hopefully if other people had that same thought as well. It's like everybody's got their own reasons.
It's interesting too, because a lot of the people that I've been talking to on the calls, they're getting out of the real estate market because it's a lot of time and energy, and it actually takes work. It's not making passive income. And so that's why they're in this space looking at like, well, this would just be passive income, which frees up a lot of time as well. And I can
Mhm.
still make the same type of returns, if not even better, right?
Mhm.
So I'm
So
I'm the only one working here then? Is that what you guys are saying?
I'm working.
Everybody's going on vacation and passive income? What the heck? What is that?
Right. Right. So, but it's true, right? Like you can actually, you can relate it to even this particular space where people don't want to look after the real estate investments.
Of
And
course.
that's probably a really big place that people are coming from. Like the majority of the calls that I get are how um how do I get out of the real estate market, or I'm planning on getting out of the real estate market, or I've got a couple of houses that are on the listing, and so it's a matter of time before they're actually able to free up some capital. So that's why we really wanted to talk about, why would you want to sell your business? One, because you're making so
Mhm.
much money.
Mhm.
And for an investor's perspective, EQK it only started up in January. So there's a really big concern about the how short this company has been formed. Like there's not a lot of longevity, there's not a lot of history.
I'm gonna jump right in on that.
Thank you.
When we achieve escape velocity as a metaphor and we get to that level, we're not going to offer this type of a return.
No.
That's why when you go to Wells Fargo, they offer you 2.5%, which is garbage because they're so big. They have so much
Right.
money. They don't need to offer anything higher than that. And then a money market fund's 5%. Just remember that you
Mm,
you get the you get what you
yep.
deserve at the price and the risk tolerance that you have. I bought a lot of Bitcoin at a low price when it was the most risky. Right now, it's the least risky, but it's
Right.
more expensive. So y'all can
Right.
get 20% return on your capital in our promissory notes now, and when we get bigger, it'll go down to 10%, and,
Right.
and
Or
it'll
not
go
at all.
or not at all. We won't even need capital potentially. And
Yeah.
so again, it's a great question, but it's like everything in life. It's cheaper when it's riskier. It's a higher return when it's riskier. And that risk is always just a perceptive thing, right?
Right.
Short time horizon, we offer a more incentive. That's the
Yep.
point. Otherwise, like that's why you guys are on here, because 16 to 20% is like, whoa, that's exciting. Exactly. This is an exciting opportunity. And it's just getting started. If we had a 5 or 10 year historical thing that we could show people, at this point, when we get to that level, we probably won't be raising capital. And if we are, it definitely won't be at a 16 to 20% return.
Yep.
It'll probably just be from other equity groups that are looking to put in tens of millions of dollars in
Yeah.
exchange for giving us either, equity swaps or things of that nature. So
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
And
Right.
another thing to consider is, right,
Mhm.
let me ask Mark, when did you start your company? When did you start Shorten the Gap?
2013, October.
Okay, so could we say that EQK was started in 2013 now?
Right. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah.
Right? We're
Right.
not, even though the LLC is new from
Mhm.
January, the businesses that we're acquiring are not new. They have a lot
Mhm.
of history, they have a lot of growth, and they have a lot of growth potential, right? And I think I
Right.
just saw a follow-up question from
Yeah.
Carla. How do you choose companies, right?
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's what we're looking for. The the investment thesis for Toolbox as a whole, and of course for EQK is the same. It's pretty interesting and unique, right? We invest in people first. We always look at, do we want to partner with them, right? Even if it's 100% buyout, we still have to partner. We're still partners, right? In Mark's case, it's a very tight relationship and he's part of the team. But in other cases, that's less of a daily relationship, so to speak. But there's still a partnership. We're still buying your company. We have to deal with that person. So our first criteria is the person. Who is this that we're buying this company from? The second one is then that what does that product or service that we're buying, how does that impact people? And if it's not a positive impact, right, I'm not interested. I look at the P&L last, right?
Hmm.
Because you can bring me a deal that makes millions and millions of dollars, but it's a plastic widget that ends up in the ocean. Like, I don't want to be part of that. I'm not excited and passionate about delivering something like that to the marketplace. So that's our second criteria. The third one, of course, is profitability and growth and scale and automation. And specifically in this space, for EQK specifically, if that company doesn't have 50, 60% profit margin,
Yeah.
we're not even looking at it, right? Because that is what's cool and unique about this industry, right? Why would we buy, a coffee shop that has a 20% profit margin? Holy moly, that's a very successful and profitable coffee shop, right? An info business that has a 20% profit margin, something wrong with it, because within that space, that is not a good number. So there's an additional criteria that we add when we decide to acquire these businesses. After number 1 and 2 are satisfied, we look for very high profit margin companies that basically run themselves, right? With a small team. And that's how that's how you accomplish these things, right? If
Right.
you,
That's
like
where you
Mark, his business was run by one person, him part-time and one full-time person.
yeah.
That was it. So that's how he was able to accomplish those very high profit margins. No inventory, no office, no store, nothing. Just, a person that he had to pay.
Right. We have a question in here that says, are pension funds or deferred retirement funds eligible for investment? So
Yes. So the same answer that I always give is it depends, right? And I can go into all the details, and I know how this works. I know how, what the actual rules are, but
yeah,
I don't want to get into it because it really depends who your custodian is and what the custodian allows you to do, right?
right,
So the answer is yes, maybe.
right,
We're not the ones putting the restrictions on what you do, how it is taxed, how much you can take out, all of that. That is not on our side, right?
right.
We have a note, a convertible note that you can buy.
Yeah,
It's up to you, your custodian, the trustee, whoever manages your money, if that's you or a third party, they're going to decide whether this is eligible or not.
right.
And again, that is a very generic answer, but I deliberately keep it this generic and vague because I don't want to say things that then are not true for that individual.
Right, right. So if anyone on the call is interested in doing something like that, they would need to go to their custodian and they would need to find out what all the parameters are for investing in EQK, which it would need to be self-directed, and they would need to find out if EQK can be put into that self-direction.
Yeah. So that's
Right.
my only advice. Speak to whoever is managing your funds, and they
Okay.
will be able to give you that answer.
We have another question in here from Todd, and the question is there any expense offset to the 16% return? I'm not sure what that question means, so I'm going to leave that in.
Maybe he's referring to how funds typically work and when you're an LP, because funds tend to promote a certain return, but then what you eventually get is less because
Hmm.
there's expenses taken out of that distribution. If that's what he's referring to, then no. This is a loan, right? We are giving you it's a very simple calculation. You put in 100,000, 16% per year is 16,000. 16,000 divided by 12. Those are your monthly payments. It's that simple. And
Right.
then when your term is up after 2 or 3 years, we pay you back your principal, or you roll it over into another note.
Right.
So
Okay.
yeah, if that was the question, then that's how it works.
Okay. And then Carla also had, can you share which custodians are already set up with you? I use Advanta IRA.
That is not one of them. Do we have one actually? No, we have two trusts that we filled out paperwork for.
Okay.
And then one was it starts with a Q, Quest or something. Yeah.
Okay.
But it's not an issue. It's probably 15 minutes, half hour of work for us to fill out the paperwork and register with that specific custodian.
Right. So then in Carla's case, so if she wanted to get set up, then she would contact us and we can get the paperwork from her and then we'll get set up kind of
Yeah,
idea. Right?
Advanta will have their own process.
Perfect.
Mhm.
All right. So we still have 12 minutes left. So we still have some time for some more questions. I know that we've kind of been going into some of the returns and what are the logistics, right? But a lot of people have some questions around um, how do you determine the companies, which we kind of already discussed. But as an investor for myself, like let's say I'm the investor and I'm coming in and I'm in the real estate game, so I've never really been looking at this type of an alternative investment. What advice would you give me if I was looking at companies and choosing which type of a company I would want to go with? Would I be looking at their P&Ls? Should investors be asking that from us? Like what would give them more comfort and security in investing with us?
Interesting. That's an interesting question. So basically, I can I can only speak to my process, right? What do we do
Okay.
as a company, and what do we look for? Um, and I kind of alluded to that in the couple of minutes ago.
Yeah.
Very unique approach where we look at the person, the product, and then the P&L. Now, when you acquire a company, the first thing that you want to look at is, okay, how has that company done historically, right? Let me look at the tax returns for the last 3 years.
Okay.
And that gives you a snapshot of how the financial health of that company was, and will be going forward. Now,
Yeah.
for the going forward thing, you want to ask yourself another question. The day that I take over that company, what's going to happen? What happens when Mark is no longer the CEO, the owner of that company? What happens
Mm.
when I take out that one element? Is everybody going to quit? Or the client's going to say, well, I don't want to buy anymore? Or are there no, can we not fulfill on the product anymore? Is everybody going to cancel? Those are the
Yeah.
questions that you want to ask yourself, right? What is the guarantee that 3-year historical trend is going to continue, or at least stabilize?
Right.
That's the most important thing that you want to ask yourself when you acquire a business.
Right.
And all the decisions that you make around how do I finance this? When do we buy this? Are all based in the answers to that question.
Right.
Biggest mistake people make is, oh, I can grow this into $1 billion business. Okay, maybe.
Right. Yep.
And even if that's true, you need to make your decisions based on today and what happened in the past, and having the reassurance that you can at least continue that.
Right.
That's where you make your decisions on, not on, oh man, this house is going to triple in price in the next 2 years. So I'm gonna buy it at a premium, right?
Right.
I'm safe. No, that's a very wrong way of looking at it. You want to look at it today. What is it worth? What is a good deal today? And that's the same with a company, right? So you always want to look at the continuation and how do we secure that that company at least continues what it's doing today, because I'm going to purchase it based on the current values, right?
Right. So if I'm an investor and I'm looking at the EQK portfolio, we've got the 4 companies. So for them individually, they would look at those individual companies that are in EQK.
Mhm.
But technically speaking, their note is EQK in total. So they get all 4 companies essentially from their note, right? They get the benefits of all 4 companies in that
Yeah,
one,
yeah. I want to be very
right?
careful with the words
Okay.
we use, right? They don't
Yep.
get anything. It's not an
Right.
equity play.
Right.
It's a debt. It's a loan. We pay
Right.
interest on the loan, right? But however, what you're right in saying is that the the stress on the cash flow to pay back those loans is shared by all 4 companies, 5 companies soon, and
Right.
the 17 other companies that we're going to buy
Right.
for the rest of the year. So even
Right.
if one, let's say you invest now and we buy X company, right? And
Yeah.
X company is actually, we actually made a mistake on that one, and it's not performing the way we thought it did. And
Right.
it's actually not producing enough cash flow to cover the notes that are attached to that company. Well, that's okay, because we have 4 other companies that are making profit, and the cash
Right.
flow of those companies can be used to pay back these notes. So
Right.
we're creating our own leverage within that holding company, where if one doesn't do well, the other one will. And it's all, left pocket, right pocket
It's like
doesn't matter.
investing in the S&P 500.
Exactly,
You get the
Yeah.
exactly.
diversification of all the companies,
Mhm.
and if one company ends up becoming like the FANG stocks, because of the 500 S&Ps, over 490 of them are not actually really generating a profit to produce the 7% return. So it's a weighted basket, and the Microsoft, Nvidia, the FANG stocks basically are the only reason that the S&P 500 goes up about 7% a year compounded over the last century. So the
Mhm.
only reason that people invest in the S&P 500, although they think it's a diversified basket of 500 companies, which it is, over 490 of those companies are not really truly producing a return. Only like the top 10, right? The top 10 companies are, and those ones pull up all the other 490 companies so that you investing in them get a 7% compounded return over an average of a century. And
Okay.
so with EQK, to make the example, we could have some companies that don't do well, but we only need a couple to become the really big, super successful ones, to offset the rest. And so by investing in EQK, you really diversify your risk, because even if a couple companies don't end up being good for whatever reason, it's just the risk of being in business and doing roll-ups or even investing in the S&P 500, 95% of those companies are not profitable. So if you're in the S&P 500, you've invested in something that 95% are not successful, but your risk is offset by the 5% that are. And so it's we're going to have a lot better success rate than the S&P 500. We're not going to have 95% not doing well. We'll probably have the opposite. But nonetheless, it's a good metaphor for people to look at.
It
It's like
is.
we
Yeah,
only need
yeah.
a couple companies to be doing really well to be able to offset any of the quote unquote risk,
Mhm.
for the people who have promissory notes that we will pay. So
Right. So that kind of brings me to even the free ebooks, right? Because free ebooks has not been monetized yet. So so there's a huge potential with free ebooks, but it supports all of those other companies with the amount of email addresses it has, correct?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
it's also important to note that we did not use any convertible note money to acquire that business,
Right.
right? So
Right.
there is zero stress on that cash flow, which
Yeah.
is still today zero, but soon not to be zero. I mean,
Yeah.
we're still
yeah.
it's incredible what the opportunity there. We just need time to install all of that.
Also, an investment like that, we were able to buy based on its, risk adjusted cash flow,
Hmm.
which was very low. And so we
Hmm.
were able to acquire that company straight from our own internal balance sheets. And because it was basically risk adjusted based on its own cash flow, which was small, we were able to grab it at an absolute bargain, because the seller was also motivated. So when you put those two things together, low revenue, so risk adjusted acquisition cost is really low. We literally bought it for, I mean, almost like one time profit, so it was like nothing. And then a motivated seller, I mean, we bought that thing at an absolute bargain, and because the seller was motivated and we were able to buy it based on cash flow, which is realistic in this world. The crazy thing is it's actually more of a data asset play. And so it has over 9.6 million emails, almost 10 million emails, and its
Yeah.
SEO ranking is A plus.
Oh, wow.
And it generates millions and millions of views, millions and millions of views a year, all organically, and generates like over 500 fresh leads a day opting into the funnel, adding up to the 10 million emails that we'll soon be at from 9.6.
Yeah.
And so the cool thing is we're able to buy it as it's almost like if we bought a deck of cards and inside of it was a Mickey Mantle rookie card. And it's like, well, we just bought it as a deck, but like inside of it was this thing that the owner who sold it to us, who was motivated, didn't realize. It's almost like when you see the show and they pay to open up those shipping containers, not knowing what's in it.
Oh, yeah.
And the
Yeah.
seller's like, buy the shipping container for $5,000. And then inside of it, we found treasure. We knew that we bought something that was similar to that metaphor because this is a data play. I mean, we literally had somebody tell us who's in private equity, they're like, 10 million emails, that could probably be sold for $25 million. And so
We can sell it tomorrow if we want to. I'm not
like
kidding.
it was like the metaphor I just gave. Like we just bought treasure based on a motivated seller who sold his company for basically one time's profit. And so occasionally EQK is going to pick up deals like that. And we bought that with our own cash. We didn't even use investor cash. So something like that alone could be a unicorn within our EQK, which is like the S&P 500 metaphor. It could be one of the top 10 companies within EQK that just sets the rest of the precedent for the portfolio to be super successful. And so again, that's the cool thing that you guys get exposure to, is you get to be part of this really exciting journey. And we are the ones who go out there and find the treasure for you to be able to get you that 16 to 20% return. That's going to be better than the S&P 500, better than basically any other index fund. It's going to mitigate your risk. It's going to be better than real estate. I'm pissed that I have money locked up in real estate and mobile homes and apartments that I invested in. And, you know, I get an 8% return, but my money's locked up. And that 8% return is lower than the inflation rate right now of 10 to 14%. And that's going to keep going up. The inflation rate's going to keep going up. So like, really the other reason 16 to 20% is exciting for us is because we know it's providing a certain number that is just out of the reach of most people. Most people they can't find anything in their ability to invest that's going to provide a 16 to 18% return. And so that's why that number is also really exciting. And that's why we think that we have a unique competitive advantage doing what we're doing.
Yeah, that's awesome. We just landed on the hour mark. So I'm sorry to say our webinar is done. So I'm hoping that Mark, you're going to come back one day and do another one.
Anytime.
That was fantastic. So I just wanted to say thank you very much. Your explanations were really clear and make it a lot easier for us to understand, myself included. And I always want to say thank you to Gus because he's on this call with us every week to provide a lot of information. If you haven't seen the info pack yet, you definitely want to go to the Toolbox website and download that info pack. If you signed up for and received this webinar, you probably already have it in one of those emails. So check your emails.
We should drop the link in the chat right now while everybody's on here, or Gus, pull it up, just send it to them so they don't have to go dig for it and make it easy for you guys.
There we go. I will drop it in the chat. Nope, Gus will. Nope, I will. Haha, I found the chat. Okay, here we go.
All right, there it is. I see it. It just pulled up. Yep.
Yeah, so you definitely want to download that information pack. It does have information on all the different companies and links to the website, so you can go check them out. You can go check out Mark as well. You can go check out all of his videos to get a better sense of who he is. Just like you said, we can Facebook stalk him. So
it's actually real. He's the same in real life, just so you know.
Is he?
One of those, filter,
Awesome.
Instagram people.
Yeah.
It's real.
That's perfect. That's awesome. That's good to know. So is Gus, by the way. Yeah. So anyway, so if you have any questions, please feel free to reach out to us. We're more than happy to answer any of those questions. We can jump on a 15-minute call. And other than that, we will be back here at 10 a.m. Pacific Standard Time next week for another webinar. So we'll let you know what that's going to be about in an email, and hopefully we'll see you here next week.
Bye. Thank you.
Thanks,
Thanks,
guys.
Mark.
All right.
Bye.
Thanks so much.